You notice how some people defend opinions before fully hearing opposing perspectives calmly. Friends often react instantly to small comments, then later justify their emotional responses logically. Family members make quick decisions, then construct careful explanations that sound deliberate and reasoned. Co-workers reject ideas immediately, later describing their resistance as thoughtful professional judgment. Partners sometimes withdraw during discussions, claiming they needed time to think things through. Everyone appears rational on the surface, yet reactions happen faster than explanations form. You begin recognizing this pattern repeatedly in others across ordinary daily interactions. It seems like poor thinking at first, but the pattern is more automatic. What looks like reasoning is often the final step, not the beginning. This is where instinct quietly precedes logic in ways rarely noticed. You may have labeled certain people as impulsive, emotional, or stubborn during ordinary disagreements and conversations. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman observed that much of human thinking happens automatically before conscious reasoning begins shaping explanations. When a friend snaps defensively, it appears like deliberate choice, yet the reaction usually occurs before thought assembles justification. The brain reacts to tone, posture, and expression faster than language can interpret what is happening. A partner's immediate silence during conflict can seem strategic, yet it is often an instinctive retreat from perceived emotional threat. Co-workers dismiss suggestions rapidly, later constructing logical arguments that make the dismissal appear measured and thoughtful. Even in calm discussions, the body tightens, eyes narrow, or voices shift before conscious awareness identifies any disagreement. What you perceive as personality is often a sequence of automatic reactions followed by carefully arranged reasoning. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner noted that actions are shaped by reinforcement long before reflective awareness develops. You may notice someone becoming defensive about harmless feedback, then explaining their sensitivity as principled self-respect. Friends sometimes change their tones suddenly, not from decision, but from instinctive emotional recalibration. During family debates, people react emotionally first, then build narratives that protect their image afterward. The mind is remarkably skilled at explaining reactions it did not consciously choose to produce. Even laughter in tense moments can be an automatic attempt to regulate discomfort before understanding its source. A colleague's quick disagreement might feel intentional, yet it often originates from subconscious pattern recognition. Psychologist Carl Jung observed that the unconscious directs much of behavior while the conscious mind claims authorship. You begin noticing how explanations always arrive after the reaction, rarely before it. In social settings, nodding, frowning, or leaning back occurs before thoughts fully form about what is being heard. What feels like reasoning is frequently a story assembled to make instinctive behavior appear coherent and controlled. Partners often describe their reactions as thoughtful decisions, unaware how quickly their bodies had already responded. The sequence is subtle: stimulus, reaction, explanation, all happening within seconds, yet feeling like deliberate thought. This is where the pattern quietly reshapes everything you assumed about rational behavior. You see how quickly discomfort triggers defensiveness, followed by careful words meant to restore composure. Friends interpret situations emotionally first, then search for logic that justifies the feeling they already experienced. The brain prioritizes emotional safety over accuracy, then arranges reasoning to support that priority convincingly. What seems like stubbornness may simply be the mind protecting itself before understanding what it protects against. You recognize this most clearly in others because your own sequence feels seamless and invisible. This recognition is uncomfortable, revealing how often instinct moves before awareness can intervene. The behavior is not irrational. It is a survival mechanism designed to act faster than thought. And the deeper origin of this pattern begins long before adulthood, hidden in early learning and social conditioning.
If you're still watching, you probably notice things most people miss. You question behavior, you look beneath the surface. If that sounds like you, subscribe. This channel was made for minds like yours.
Long before language developed fully, your brain learned to react to facial expressions, tones, and gestures signaling safety or danger. Parents' reactions to mistakes taught more than rules. They trained rapid emotional responses before reasoning could participate. A raised voice, a sigh, or a disapproving look became early signals that shaped instinctive defensive behavior. Siblings added complexity, forcing constant adjustment to maintain harmony, attention, or protection within shared environments. You learn to read rooms before understanding words, sensing tension through posture, silence, and subtle emotional shifts. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner noted that reinforcement shapes behavior, yet these reinforcements often occur without conscious recognition. Praise for obedience and correction for deviation created pathways where quick compliance felt safer than reflective disagreement. Even playful teasing among family members trained rapid emotional calibration and anticipatory responses to avoid discomfort. Childhood friendships became testing grounds where inclusion depended on reacting appropriately to social cues. Embarrassing moments left deep impressions, teaching the brain to avoid similar exposure through faster emotional reactions. Teachers unknowingly reinforced these patterns, rewarding immediate conformity and discouraging behaviors that delayed social rhythm. By adolescence, instinctive reactions were refined, allowing swift emotional responses that maintained belonging and reduced conflict. The brain became efficient at predicting outcomes before reasoning could evaluate whether those predictions were accurate. Psychologist John Bowlby's work on attachment suggests early bonds shape how quickly we react to perceived relational threats. A simple look of disappointment from a caregiver could program defensive reactions lasting decades into adulthood. Games, arguments, and small betrayals trained vigilance, encouraging emotional speed over thoughtful processing. You learned which expressions attracted approval and which triggered subtle withdrawal from others. Family routines reinforced patterns daily, embedding reflexive reactions that later felt like personality traits. Early social rejection taught the brain to respond instantly to anything resembling potential exclusion. These experiences formed neurological shortcuts, allowing rapid responses that felt protective rather than impulsive. By the time reasoning matured, these instinctive pathways were already deeply established and frequently used. You carried these patterns into adulthood, where reactions still follow routes carved long before conscious memory. Even when circumstances changed, the brain continued applying old protective strategies to new social environments. Psychologist Albert Bandura observed that observational learning shapes behavior long before direct experience is understood. You absorbed how adults handled tension, conflict, and emotion, mirroring their instinctive reactions without realizing it. Small childhood anxieties quietly train the mind to favor speed over accuracy in emotional interpretation. Early laughter, silence, compliance, or resistance all became templates for handling future social situations automatically. What appears as quick judgment today often originates from protective lessons learned in emotionally charged early environments. The instinct to react first was never a flaw. It was an efficient adaptation to unpredictable social surroundings. These origins explain why reasoning often arrives after emotion, not before it, in everyday interactions. And this instinctive sequence now reveals itself clearly in how you and others behave within social relationships. In conversations with friends, reactions appear instantly in faces before thoughtful words are carefully assembled afterward. A friend interrupts quickly, then explains the interruption as enthusiasm or urgency once the moment has passed. Partners often respond to tone rather than content, reacting emotionally before understanding what was actually said. Family members defend positions immediately, later organizing their thoughts into structured, reasonable explanations. At work, someone rejects a proposal instinctively, then builds professional arguments supporting their immediate discomfort. You notice how quickly moods shift in groups, long before anyone consciously acknowledges a change in atmosphere. Friends agree rapidly during discussions, sensing emotional direction before evaluating ideas independently and calmly. A partner withdraws mid-conversation, later describing the pause as thoughtful reflection rather than instinctive protection. During disagreements, voices rise or flatten automatically, signaling emotional reaction before logical debate begins. Colleagues mirror each other's posture, tone, and pacing without awareness of how quickly this alignment occurs. Family dinners reveal patterns where certain topics trigger immediate tension before anyone articulates why. You may see someone laugh defensively, disguising discomfort that appeared faster than conscious understanding. In friendships, people often choose sides emotionally first, then search for reasons to justify their alignment. Workplace hierarchies are navigated through instant deference or assertion before deliberate thought intervenes. A partner's sudden reassurance can originate from sensing tension rather than responding to actual words spoken. Even compliments are sometimes delivered quickly to diffuse perceived discomfort rather than express genuine admiration. Friends change subjects abruptly when emotional discomfort arises, later framing the shift as natural conversational flow. Parents and children react to each other with emotional speed, continuing patterns learned years earlier. During social gatherings, one person's tension spreads rapidly, triggering instinctive adjustments throughout the group. You notice how quickly silence becomes uncomfortable, prompting someone to speak before thinking fully. Psychologist Irving Goffman observed social performance, yet much of this performance begins as unconscious reaction. People sense disapproval instantly, adjusting posture, tone, or expression before identifying the source of the feeling. A colleague's nervous smile may appear polite, yet it often follows an instinctive emotional jolt. Friends reassure each other quickly, not from analysis, but from sensing emotional imbalance in the interaction. Partners sometimes argue about words when the real trigger was a tone detected seconds earlier. What feels like discussion is often a chain of reactions followed by careful storytelling to explain them. You recognize these patterns easily in others because their reactions are visible while yours feel internally seamless. Everyday social life becomes a continuous exchange of instinctive responses dressed in rational explanations. This is where the pattern becomes most visible. Reactions lead, reasoning follows quietly behind. And modern life provides even more opportunities for this instinctive sequence to repeat and intensify. Modern environments flood the brain with stimuli, increasing the speed and frequency of instinctive emotional reactions. Notifications arrive without warning, prompting immediate emotional shifts before conscious evaluation of their importance. Messages are read with tone imagined instantly, long before words are calmly interpreted for their actual meaning. Social platforms reward quick responses, encouraging reaction speed rather than reflective consideration of what is being shared. You may notice how rapidly you feel before you think when scrolling through posts or reading comments. Cultural expectations praise decisiveness, subtly reinforcing fast reactions that appear confident and socially competent. Work communication now happens rapidly through messages, where immediate replies feel necessary to maintain professional image. Psychologist Marshall McLuhan noted that mediums shape perception and digital spaces accelerate emotional processing unconsciously. Even short pauses in online conversations create discomfort, triggering instinctive assumptions about what silence might mean. People curate responses carefully, yet the emotional reaction guiding those responses happen moments earlier without awareness. News cycles and trending topics encourage immediate opinions before thoughtful analysis can develop naturally. You might feel compelled to respond quickly, sensing social pressure that mirrors childhood urgency for approval. Group chats amplify this effect, where rapid exchanges create emotional momentum that reasoning struggles to catch. Comparison becomes constant, as images and achievements provoke instant emotional assessments of personal standing. Digital interactions train the brain to react to symbols, icons, and brief messages with surprising emotional intensity. Emails are reread multiple times because initial reactions felt too fast to trust completely. Workplace dynamics extend into virtual spaces, where tone is inferred quickly and explanations follow later. Even entertainment encourages identification and emotional response before reflection can create distance. The brain adapts to this pace, relying more heavily on instinctive pathways refined long before technology existed. Cultural praise for strong opinions subtly rewards those who react first and justify later. You may feel mentally tired after digital interactions without recognizing how many rapid emotional reactions occurred silently. This environment strengthens the habit of reacting instantly, and reasoning afterward in nearly every social exchange. Friends and partners experience misunderstandings more easily because emotional interpretations happen before clarification. The modern world does not create this pattern, but it magnifies its presence in everyday life. What once occurred occasionally now repeats dozens of times daily across screens and conversations. The cost is subtle: reduced patience for reflection and increased reliance on emotional shortcuts. You begin to sense how frequently your mind reacts before you consciously understand what is happening. This is where the pattern quietly deepens, hidden behind the appearance of constant communication and connection. And deeper awareness of this sequence brings a realization that offers clarity without comfort. Awareness begins as a subtle noticing that reactions often arrive before thoughts fully assemble into language. You start observing how quickly your body responds during conversations, even when your mind feels calm. A friend's sudden defensiveness now reveals itself as instinct moving faster than conscious reasoning. Partners' emotional shifts appear less mysterious when you see the sequence unfold in real time. Work discussions feel layered, as if invisible reactions precede every carefully spoken sentence. You recognize how often explanations follow feelings, arranged neatly to make instinct appear deliberate. Psychologist Carl Jung suggested the unconscious guides behavior, and this becomes visible in ordinary moments. Silence during conversations now feels charged with unseen emotional activity rather than simple pauses. You notice how rapidly judgments form before you understand why you feel certain about them. Friends' reactions seem predictable, not because they lack depth, but because the pattern becomes recognizable. Family interactions appear like rehearsed exchanges shaped by decades of instinctive responses. Even laughter carries traces of regulation, balancing emotional discomfort before conscious awareness intervenes. You begin seeing how tone, posture, and microexpressions reveal reactions earlier than words can explain. The mind continues its fast processing, even while you observe it with growing clarity. Moments of disagreement feel slower, as you witness emotion arrive before reasoning catches up. You sense how often certainty is constructed after emotional alignment has already occurred. Colleagues' behaviors become easier to interpret when you notice how instinct drives their initial responses. You recognize this same sequence in yourself, though it feels seamless and difficult to interrupt. Awareness does not stop the process. It only exposes how automatic it has always been. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman described fast thinking, yet observing it directly feels more unsettling than theoretical. Ordinary conversations now seem like exchanges between instincts dressed in carefully arranged language. You notice how frequently your mind edits memory to match the feeling that came first. Partners' reassurances appear as responses to sensed emotion rather than logical discussion. Friends' arguments reveal emotional reactions long before their structured points appear. The brain's speed becomes undeniable, revealing how little time reasoning truly has to lead. You sense how much of what feels rational is actually narrative built around instinctive experience. There is no immediate comfort in this awareness, only a clearer view of hidden processes. What feels like personality begins to look like accumulated patterns of rapid emotional adaptation. The mind continues its work quietly, even as you watch, unchanged by your observation. And one idea lingers without resolution. If instinct leads and logic follows, what part of you is truly choosing?